I do think that if you come from a very difficult background or you have a hard time understanding who God is, that's going to shape how you hear God's voice when you're doing mental prayer. And that's one of the biggest reasons I actually recommend starting with the Gospels
Yeah.
and reading his words first,
Yeah.
because otherwise even the very tone that you hear God's voice in your brain, if you're used to parents who are very critical of you,
Right.
that's the voice you're going to hear of God when you're engaged in mental prayer, and that's not his voice. And so
Right.
reading the Gospels and being able to do actual Lectio Divina and hear his voice, that's going to help you a lot as you start to exercise this part of your soul.
You're right. And the other thing is, it's not ink and paper. It's the word of God. It has power.
Yes.
Romans 12:1, be not conformed to this world, but be transformed by the
Mm.
renewal of your mind. What the Lord wants to do in and through his word and in and through his self-revelation, and this is the way he's chosen to reveal himself primarily, is to heal our hearts and our minds from those false images of himself and to reveal more truly who he is. And as you noted earlier in our discussion, when you give yourself over to that discipline, that reality, and when you give yourself over to silence, even, and just dealing with what it means to be sitting there in the dark, alone but with him, not alone by yourself, but alone with him. What happens is those conversations that you would have had on the road to Jericho happen, where he says, Angela, there's a part of you that is hurting, and it's affecting you, and it's coming out in this way, and I know you don't like it because you've confessed it to me many times. Would you like me to heal it? Right.
Mm.
And because you're
Yes.
there and you're present, you can say, yes, Lord. And then what does he do? Of course, he's always faithful, and he says, good, then I will, but if we're not engaged in that walk, in that conversation, in that intimacy, we miss those graces. We miss those self revelations, if you will, where he reveals to us who we are really and who he is really, and he opens our eyes to those things and then draws us ever more deeply into them. But for that to be possible, we must be present to him. We can't just say, well, yeah, I'm a Christian and I'm going to Zoom here. And, like if you and I, as an example, if you and I were longtime friends, let's say you're my sister-in-law or something, and I saw you once every few weeks for coffee, and you asked me how Stephanie was. And I said, she's great. She's wonderful. She's beautiful. She's amazing. And then, I saw you another time, you and I and your husband met, and you asked me again. I say, she's great. She's wonderful. You start thinking it's a weird answer. And then you might say, where is she? And then if I said, well, I don't know, but isn't she amazing, wonderful, beautiful? You don't know where she is? No. When was the last time you saw her? I don't know, but she's wonderful, beautiful. What do you
Yeah.
say? Like, do you talk? Have you not talked with her? No, no, she's wonderful, beautiful. You'd go, you're nuts. You're there. You don't have a relationship with your wife. How
Yeah.
can you claim to ever? You don't talk to her. What's wrong with you? Does your pastor know? Are you getting a divorce? So, but funny enough, that exact same scenario with God, we tolerate it like it's okay. We act like, well, it's normal, or like it's not it's not broken. Well, if we say he's the most important thing in our life, how do we correspond to that reality, and
Hmm.
how do we give him access to our hearts in that way, to where those conversations happen, those things that and boy, it's not easy though, is it? Right? I mean, you have it the hardest. I have the greatest sympathy for moms, and how was it? Moms are the hardest, but but I will say this to you though, as a word of comfort, is that if all you can do every day is get in 5 minutes, because this little one's going this day, and this little one's going this day, and and but you go, you will receive the same grace that you need as a Carmelite cloistered nun who spends 4 hours in prayer,
Mm.
because you have done all that you can do, really
Hmm.
all that you can do. So it's not it's not about, it's not a performance thing. It's what can we do? What can we give? How can we show up as best we can? Tired, beleaguered, confused, irritated, sick. But if we show up, maybe with a one here and one here, one baby here, he's still going to meet you, and he's not going to punish you or penalize you for, you being true to your primary vocation, anyway,
Mhm.
I'm
Well,
rambling again.
it's funny that you say that too, because I also have the habit. I have a very strong inner critic, and so
Mhm.
I'm never doing enough, right? And there have been times where I'm like, oh, I need to go and pray and do this thing, but I don't have enough time to pray the whole rosary or something,
Mhm.
or I'm really distracted, and of course the enemy is discouraging me. Well, if you can't do it at all, or if you're not going to do it perfectly, then why bother?
Right,
Or
yeah,
that's never going to be good enough. And then there's that part. All of a sudden, I can sense my guardian angel going, "No, God is just pleased, even if it's imperfect. He's pleased that you're showing up, and you can improve. Yeah, maybe you do need to get better. Like
yeah,
maybe that is a part of it, but it's better than nothing. And
yeah,
that's something. That's something."
yeah, yeah. You can only do what you can do. That's the hard part about good people, right? Who really desire the best, is sometimes we penalize ourselves for things that are simply just not possible for us to do.
Yeah.
And he's a good father. I always say this, he's a good father. What does it feel like? Have you ever had those moments where your little one just crawls up on your lap and just goes to sleep and just becomes this little beautiful ball of, tiredness, but they're on your lap, and
Mhm.
and they came to you. It's why, and I think Therese used this, a similar analogy. But I want to say to people, go to prayer and go fall asleep and just get over it. It's okay,
Oh, yeah.
because you're going to him. Go tired and get over it, and go with monkey mind, and doesn't, whatever it is, just be
That's so
present,
funny.
and he's going to pour out his graces on you and his love. And he looks on you with love, not like, oh, Angela, you loser, you need to wake up. When you were up all night with three sick
Ah,
kids,
yeah.
that's not our God.
Yeah, it's funny that you say that because in the days following my sister's accident, I'm not trying to make this whole interview about her, but it's top of the mind because it's coming
Yeah.
up here soon. But I was after I had a daily adoration hour at the time. I think I only had one kid, so it was a little easier to do. And it was in the middle of the night. It was from 2 to 3 in the morning, and I remember going and I was writing out. I'd been asked to write out the intentions for her funeral.
Mm,
And I sat in adoration. I started writing the intentions for that. And then I remember I laid prostrate on the floor before the tabernacle
mm,
weeping, and I fell asleep. And then my mom happened to text me at 2:55 in the morning, and it woke me up right before the next person came in. And I remember thinking, "Oh my goodness, I'm so embarrassed. I can't believe I did that. I've never fallen asleep during adoration at this hour before." And I know I was exhausted with grief. But
mhm,
at the same time, I felt guilty or something, like I'd
mm,
done a bad thing. And I remember asking a priest about it later, and he said, "No, it was a gift from God. He
mhm,
wanted you to rest. He saw
mhm.
that. He saw you, and he knew you needed to rest, and that's okay." And I
That's good for you.
remember feeling like this weight come off my shoulders, like, "Yeah, you're right. I did. I needed rest."
Yeah.
Yeah.
If we just understood that it's just about showing up, and really, if you think about them, the most important secret to spiritual growth is just about showing up. And it's not about us, being perfect in our showing up, or being perfect in the way that in our devotion. This last week, there's one day getting through this novena where I have no clue what I read before, during, or after. I was so tired. And then, this morning I was totally awake and blessed with, like, being able to enter into the whole thing.
Mm.
In both cases, what my commitment is to show up. And I've even told the Lord, because I don't sleep. I have a real hard time with sleep because of my my illness and because of what the medications I take and whatever. And I, well, you know, I even in a little bit of frustration, I've said, you know what, this is your problem. You know, you made
You
me
did
this
this
way.
to me.
You made me
Yeah.
this way, or you're
Yeah.
allowing this. And I, you know, I
Oh,
just want you to know it's your fault. And I'm
yeah.
okay with that. And I'm good with the suffering. Help me if you would. But when you want to fix it, you fix it. And there's nothing wrong with that sentiment,
Mhm.
because
Yeah.
it's like freeing. It's like, well, you know, you made me a mom. So help
Yeah.
me. Give me more, give me some more, help me a
Give
bit
me
more
more
here, would you?
patience. Yeah,
Yeah, give me more
exactly.
patience, or you know, and or just give me the comfort of knowing that, yeah, it's hard to say.
That I'm not gonna ruin my children. My
No,
priest
just give me
always
the,
goes,
you know,
he
give me the comfort of knowing that I'm okay, you know,
yeah.
and that it
Yeah.
is okay, and that you understand, because of course he does.
Yep.
You know, he does. He's. I always want to say he's a good father, because so many of us have this conception of, you know, this sort of taskmaster. I mean, it's closer to the Pharisees than to Jesus, you know.